what would bring light to that situation, that's a solar aspect. And it's also, solar aspect is also growth, right? So, um, and healing, all of that balance, basically. It's the one sphere that's connected to every other sphere, right? Um, so I will, I don't think I have this on, I don't think we have it on the site, but I'll walk you through it, but it's very simple. But then I'll send Dustin the copy of this, and then that way you have the original, and that way you can see it. But it really is very simple. So you know how we always say, like,
Is it a meditation?
yeah, it is a meditation.
Okay. Or a
Very,
practice?
very, very simple one, but you want to do it, like if you do it for 42 days, it's fine. But if you do it, uh, if it's done either, I forget now exactly. Don't quote me, but it was either 42 days or 42 Sundays in a row. So, um,
Is it one or the other, or you can do
it's one or
either?
the other.
You just don't remember what it is.
I know it could be either.
It
That's what
could
I'm
be
saying.
either.
Like,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I do it once in a while now, but I think when I originally did it, I took the 42 Sundays. Um, it just seemed to spread it out a little bit more, and correspondence with the day of the sun, and all of that stuff. So, and a bunch of other reasons that I just thought it would be a good thing to do. Um, and really, in the end, it's almost like, not exactly, but let's say it's a counterpoint to like the forgiveness meditation. It's very similar to that, um, in that you usually do it at night. You have minimal distractions. Like, really, I mean, ideally, I'm pretty sure that when I did it in a completely dark room, just one lit candle. That's it. And and we know the candle flame just represents, it's an aspect of the sun, right? You uh, watch the candle flame, relax the body, all the standard stuff that you normally would do, relax the body, and then close your eyes and imagine the candle flame moves slowly toward you and then resides in your chest, where the flame itself is in your heart. And then I'm okay. Please don't quote me, or just call me back and call me out of my numbers. But
Okay,
uh,
generalization. I got it.
generalization,
Yeah.
you pick it. I think it's 9 to 12. I think it's 12 actually, but it could be nine, of your closest people, whatever that means to you. It could be
Mhm.
relatives, friends, whatever, but your 9 or 12 closest people. And you picture them and you imagine that you're sending that candle flame. First, it's just the light that goes to them, but then it actually lights that candle flame within their heart. Okay. And so you do that, and I believe it's the first, and this may be where I'm getting the numbers messed up. It's the first 9 or 12 times that you do that. So you just stick with that the first 9 to 12 times. There's no time limit on it. You do it till you feel it's complete. But you really want to concentrate. Well, let me get through the rest of the directions. Then after that, when you finish with the 9 or 12, then you imagine that they, as well as you, start casting that light to everyone else, everybody in the world, you know, and then everybody in the invisible, right? So not just the angels, not just the spirits, but the demons, everybody, right?
Mhm.
You send that out to them. And it goes even farther. Now it starts to sort of correlate with a lot of the other hermetic types of meditations, where you're sending it out to the other planets and you're sending it out to all the stars, and you're basically covering the universe, right? And then when you're done, it just sort of stays there. You're not retracting it, right? It just stays. So, but the thing that's the most profound out of all of that, because it's a very nice meditation, right? I mean, there's not a lot of stress or strain on it. Um, but the thing that you want to focus on is that initial part where you're meditating on the candle, you see the candle, it comes into you, and the candle flame, which is the sun, is in your heart, and your first trying to perceive warmth in your chest, physical warmth in your chest. And as that grows, it will transition into an emotional warmth. And that's what you're kindling in your first close knit people, and then out. You're really sending out. It's like the imagery of the candle flame, that solar aspect going out to all of these creatures, um, uh, is just the carrier wave that emotional part is riding on to get to the target, right? So, and of course, it gets more and more abundant as more and more get sort of cued into that, right? So, um, yeah, and I would do that because basically you're casting the sun into the void and lighting up what you need to see, right?
Great.
And making yourself, you're the blasting cap, you're the initiating factor with all of this, right? And so that should help to, you know, light a light a torch in the void for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Which that so me is to help everybody else, but then that comes back.
It comes
So,
back.
right,
Yeah. The ricochet, it's never one way.
right.
When you perceive something, there's a link coming back to you, or you wouldn't perceive it. These are all axioms that we work with every day, right? It's like, it's hard to think about that with what we think of as inanimate objects, right? But, you know, oh, so my computer's looking back at me and, saying, it's like, it's just energy, man. It's, it's just holding this form, but it's still energy. So if you can perceive it, it's perceived, that energy is perceiving you as well, right? To some really tiny degree, maybe, sometimes much more than that. I mean, that's why we have wives, right? Or people in our lives, right? It's because the amount of energy that we send to them is reciprocated in a much larger capacity over time, right? It's like it makes us feel like, and not just feel like, because it is a much stronger connection than, let's say, hopefully, than me to my computer or me to this desk or whatever it is, right? So it doesn't mean that it's not there at all, but it does mean that there are varying degrees. And that's why it's what dictates that is the amount of energy that's rotating between the two parties, whatever that is, or multiple parties, right? But you can see how that factor just starts to, it'll just progress exponentially until everything is covered. So, and that sheds light through through all of the darkness. That's what it is. It'll make your path more clear so you can take the first step in whatever it is that you need to do at any given moment. Seeing it first in yourself. It doesn't say, see a candle flame in all these people that you like. No, it's get it in you first. Get the experience in you. You're the transition point. You're the bridge, right? If you can build that warmth in your chest and then that transitions into some emotional state for you that's natural, not forced, that then that's what's spread to these others. And they will then, like a conduit, spread it out. You see how it's very similar to the forgiveness meditation, right? Where it's like across the abyss, the first person comes up, but you're doing it with the pyramid of all of the people that you know, as you at the peak of the apex of that triangle, right? And they're all behind you. Your spouse, your children, your mother and father, your aunts and uncles, and all your students and friends and teachers and colleagues, and you know, everybody to, you're just the point of the spear, but you're still, daisy chaining all of these people together through you to help support the energy that's going across to, the spirit of forgiveness to that person that is rightly or wrongly you feel has wronged you, right? And so you're forgiving them. This is the same thing, but sort of the flip side of that, where I'm sending it out to the people. You're still the head of the spear, right? You have to have that feeling because that's really what's being transferred. The visual of the candle flame is, again, the correspondence with the sun, right? But what is that gap, the space between the spaces of, you know, the visualization of that candle, its placement in your heart, and the aspect, the correspondences that you know about the sun, and what's that space in between? Where is that linking with you? How is that, how is that developing? How do you understand that for yourself? How is that solar aspect for you? What are the things, what are the attributes that come up for you, especially the ones that actually start to give you that warmth sensation in your chest? The Not just the physical warmth, that's just the bridge again to the emotional warmth that's there. And that happens in that space between, right? That's the thing. It's hard to articulate, but you have to give things space, right? You have to give it the space to move. Look, it's just like Qigong, right? It's like, if, even as simple as this, if I close my hand, I've closed off the smaller chakras that are in the palm, right? So, but it doesn't mean it's cut off. No, it finds another route out, right? It could be between my knuckles or anything like that. But they have this idea of like, when you're doing Qigong, yeah, there are different hand positions, there's all of that. But when we're standing in those open positions, a lot of times the fingers are, a little bit, without putting too much pressure, a little bit spread, right? Why do they do that? The translation is almost literally so the chi will float. So the chi will float. It'll move. It'll move in the spaces between, right? Between the physical material, between even the cellular material. So that's the idea. What's on the outside is on the inside. What's on the inside is on the outside. It mirrors and reflects back and forth. This is another type of circuit that's connected, right? So you have to give things space in order for something new to be birthed in that, right? For you, for that experience to come about. If you clench it and hold it tight, you can't have experiences like that. You can't dance like this. Or you could, but you're going to look really foolish, right? Even I'm not that bad, you know. And when we when we watch dancers or Tai Chi masters, yoga masters, Qigong masters, it's like they're, even martial artists, they're flowing through the motions. There's nothing abrupt or jarring about their motions. Even things where they're leaving the floor, they're landing like a cat. Cats don't look jarred when they hit the ground. They're very smooth. Their whole body takes up that flexibility, right? We're trying to be like that as well, right? We're trying to be in the flow constantly. So you got to give it space to do that. So every aspect of that, from the visualization to the physical warmth, these are all bridges to open up a space, and your understanding, your intellectual understanding or your experiential understanding of the correspondences. What is there's a great line from this author, Terry Pratchett, and this elder is talking to this young girl, and this is in the um, somewhere in the Downs in England, and that's where, like, the 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 ground, for whatever reason, it's under this turf is chalk for the most part. It's like layers of chalk. It's which is tons of like microscopic and other sea creatures. It used to be a seabed of some sort, and so that's the place where um, and I'm sure when I say it, you'll know it. Like where there's a hill, but an ancient people, much like in in Peru, they carved or they dug out a space that looks like a horse on the green, right? And it's white because of the chalk underneath, but it's prehistoric, right? And it's like and it's hard to see. You can't see it up close, obviously, because it's just too big. Like you either have to be in a plane or you have to be far, far back in the landscape in order to see it. And and uh and the girl says to the elder, like, and I think it was actually her grandmother, and she says to her, it doesn't really it doesn't really look like a horse. you know and the grandmother says, I'm going to get this a little, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. um she goes, um it's not what a horse is, it's what a horse be. It's the essence of everything that corresponds with horse: freedom, movement, power, all of these things. She understood that, like, they were doing ritual there or whatever. And it was like, when you get that, the horse will move for you. And, later in the book, it does, you know, but it's a really good thing. And this is the thing. It's like, it's not what the sun is in intellectual correspondences or what we did. It's you have to figure out, you have to experience what the sun be, right? What's the essence of that body, right? What's the essence of it? And so the only way you can do that is by experiencing it. And the only way you can experience it is to give the experience space to blossom for you. And so all of these things, all of the technical parts are just bridges. They're just transitions to get to the place where you can let that space open up and speak to you. And it will be slightly different for all of us, and all of us will have some similar, experiential effect from that as well. So if you work on yourself that way, if you make yourself the most, it's God, I could just go on with this forever. It's like you're making yourself into the stone, right? You're making yourself into the red stone, in alchemy, where any grain of that thrown into the most coarse material, in this case, lead, will turn it to gold, right? But you have to make yourself gold first. You've got to refine yourself enough to, keep striving for that gold, right? Another sun correspondence there, right? So, and when you do that, anybody you touch has the ability to sort of blossom into that.